Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike and Jay and Lucas, aka Teknofobia. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey. How's it going?
So for those that don't know, Lucas is a writer on our blog and also now a guest on our show. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Lucas.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm one of the writers for the Fifth Trooper blog. I mainly do Imperial articles, talking about strategy with that. I guess I'm our Imperial guy. I'm one of the few people still trying to play Empire right now.
Should be getting a little easier. God's work.
Yeah. I've been holding on. Although I guess we can talk about this later, but I think Double Bounty is also getting a bit better with some of these changes. But I also stream on Twitch. I'll hopefully be getting some games in during single eliminations. Pretty busy with my own round robin, but doing that as well. And yeah, been playing Legion for a while. It's fun being on the show. Actually, the Fifth Trooper podcast is like the first podcast I listened to back when I think it was when Veers came out, and so been listening for a while. So it's cool to be on here.
Yeah, that's right about when we started. So right from the beginning.
I think I've been there since like episode 3 or something.
Yeah, wow. Perfect. Man, long time. Well, welcome to the big leagues. You made it, kid.
I made it.
Well, we have a lot to talk about today. It was a very eventful weekend. Unless you were living under a rock or in the mountains or something, there was a lot of reveals and other fun stuff for Legion that happened.
Just ignored it until today, like I did.
Yeah. If you did, in addition to listening to this episode, you can go to thefifthtrooper.com/blog and check out our summary of all the Legion stuff that happened, which is written by Timbo. And you can check that out if you want like the TLDR of all the relevant Legion reveals and stuff like that. So, but we're also going to talk about it on the show. So of course you could listen to the rest of this episode. Before we do that, any housekeeping?
Always, Kyle. There's always housekeeping. So Stormtide is going strong still. We've got box 2 going out this week. So anybody who's a subscriber of Stormtide, box 2's out this week. And if you haven't started your subscription for Stormtide yet, what are you waiting for, man? Like, get on it. Like we're kicking tires and lighting fires. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. And if you're wondering what Stormtide is about, you can go to stormtide.thefifthtrooper.com or on the Discord, the Legion Discord. We have a couple channels on there that you can check out there. You can see some people's questions. Some people are actually taking pictures of their commanders that they got in box 1, painted and everything. So you can go check that out and kind of get a feel for what it is before you invest. But I think if you like playing Legion and you want to play in a more narrative focused way in a campaign, this is why we did this, right? So, and I can tell you based on the stuff, it's funny because box 2 is coming out, and Mike and I were talking about it today, and I'm like, oh God, it's box 2. Like our heads are already in like 4 and 5. And so like, I was just like, I'm like, wait, what's going on in box 2 again? Like, and so I forgot this is one of my favorite ones. So box 2's was when we first were testing it, I was like blown away by box 2. So I hope you guys all enjoy it and like it.
Oh, I'm presently working on boxes 10 through 14, but
yeah, the art cycle is about 6 boxes behind. So and then and Patreon, right? So we have our Patreon. It helps us put guys like Lucas on the payroll and get him writing blogs. And so if you want to support that and this podcast, for the equipment, all the junk that we need to like make this happen, you can support us on Patreon. You get an additional podcast that's a secret Patreon exclusive podcast, and
super secret.
We last week we actually had an old scoundrel on the cast with Mike. So that was super cool. So you can check that out. And then, hey, Lucas, did you tell us what your Twitch channel was?
Oh, yeah, it is just Teknofobia. So Teknofobia.
There
So
we
it's
go.
spelled a little weird, but I'm the only one spelled that way. So if you type that in the Google, you're gonna find me.
There you
That's
go.
why it's spelled weird, right? So you'd
Yep,
be the only one.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was my DJ name back in high school, actually.
Look at you.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So you're
big old
you're-
throwback.
do you just like mix music or do you make music too?
In high school, I just mixed, and then in college, I actually made music.
Wow.
So a bit of both.
Geez, I think at Adepticon we're gonna get ourselves a hospitality suite and throw a little Legion party, huh?
little
We got
party?
the DJ. Yeah, let's do it.
I'm always down. I got some sweet, Star Wars dubstep remixes from back in the day.
There you go.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Hey, we should use some of those.
Yeah. I'd actually we'll talk later.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I think that's it, right? For housekeeping, that's good.
We mentioned our Patreon. I don't know.
Yep.
We go through the spiel every week.
Yeah.
It gets kind of redundant for me. So I'm sure, in any case.
All right. Well, so it was a very eventful weekend. There were multiple Legion streams.
Yeah.
First, they hit us with a sweet trailer that basically just dumped a bunch of new miniatures for, I think, what they're calling Shadow Collective.
Mm-hmm.
Accurate.
So there was Maul with a Darksaber and robot legs.
Okay, hold up. Before we go any farther, we need to leave space for this sweet thing called a news drop.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Let's hit the news.
Welcome to In the News.
Than's, Mike. I'm just so excited for.
I know it's okay to be excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited too.
There has
I'm
been
sure.
a lot coming out.
I mean, I'm a huge, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of lots of Star Wars things, but especially two things: Darth Maul and Ewoks. So for me, this was the Ewok weekend, the weekend that they announced that Ewoks would be a thing, which we'll get to later, but also a second version of Maul. So if this is like the Maul faction, then I don't care how good it is. I'm in, basically.
Sort of seems like it's the Maul faction.
Yeah.
but
I feel the same way about Ewoks. Frankly, I don't care how good they are. As soon as they come out, I will purchase them all.
Yep, exactly. All the things.
Yep.
So we got to see a model for Maul, complete with tactical rock, and I think it was just the angle maybe, but the face looked a little. That was the one thing about like the Maul model he was kind of squinty.
He's
I'm
really
sure-
angry in this one.
He's very angry. Yes, it was a very angry Maul face.
Well, I mean, he's only half a mole in this one.
That's true. Maybe that's why he's angry. He's
Yeah.
got no legs.
I mean, if I didn't have the bottom half of my body, I'd be pretty upset.
Is there a scene in Star Wars that Maul is in where he's not angry? Just to clarify.
Sometimes it's more like a simmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think when he was talking to
like a-
Palpatine in the beginning, he was just like concerned mildly.
All right.
Maybe like a low burn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did not get any stats on him, unfortunately, but we did get the model reveal, so that was awesome. We also got some pikes, which is like a crime syndicate, mostly from the Clone Wars TV series.
Is like a crime syndicate.
They are.
Kyle.
Sorry. They are
Spice
a crime
dealers.
syndicate. Yeah.
Well, they're their own syndicate. They're the Pike Syndicate.
Yeah, the Pike Syndicate. They are a crime syndicate. Thank you. Yeah, they were the crime syndicate that the Martez sisters stole spice from.
They
And-
do the Kessel Run also.
Yes.
It's like Solo, I think they're in.
Well, they don't actually finish. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. Yeah, so we got some pikes, we got some Black Sun, right? That's the sort of, it's hard to describe them. They're definitely
They are Phaline. That is the species that
that's
they,
the species. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And that's if you're familiar with Legends content, that's the faction Prince Izor. I think that's how you say that.
Okay.
Xizor from Shadows of the Empire. So yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. And we got some rules later for the pikes, so we'll talk about that shortly. What do you guys think of these sort of this new concept and these new models first before we hit that?
So Yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting. I guess you're talking about the concept of the battle forces, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
we can hit that now too. Yeah.
so I think it's a real interest. I want to take credit for this because Evan and I, way back in the day of Fifth Trooper, were talking about why wouldn't you just have a Hoth force? Like, why are we playing around? Like, why wouldn't we just do this? So I'm going to go ahead and take credit for that. Luke and Alex were listening to the Fifth Trooper podcast, and they were like, you know what? They're right. Let's make it happen. And so, but no, I like it. I think it makes sense, and it's a different way of playing, and I think it's a better way. I really like the idea from instead of like continually to put out factions, because I just never understood how that was going to work anyways, because at some point we're going to run out or you're going to be stretching. Like, it makes sense to do battle forces and just say, yeah, all right, well, if they are part of this battle force, here's your list, kind of like what Crisis Protocol does for like the Avengers or Defenders, right? Like, here's your list of models that can go into this, and you get bonus points for doing whatever you're doing inside that, for that army. Or I like it. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. So essentially, they essentially specifically said that the battle forces will be kind of a different way to organize an army. Will Pagani actually came on the Discord after the Saturday stream and posted a bunch of paragraphs of clarifications about what these battle forces are going to be. Basically he said that they may have different force organization charts. They may, have some different units that can go in them, possibly from other factions, depending on what the battle force is. He said that there will be a Hoth one, Blizzard Force, which is the Empire version of the Hoth one, the 501st Legion, droid invasion force, whatever that means, and also the first one would be the Shadow Collective, so which will feature Maul. We got to see Maul's Mandalorians, the Mandalorian Super Commandos too, on that miniature reveal. So the Shadow Collective will definitely be Maul and the Super Commandos, and possibly some mix of these other, they're calling them mercenary units, but things like the Pikes and Black Sun, and also bounty hunters. So
yeah, it's cool. And I think especially like as we're seeing all the TV shows kind of progress, right, with Rebels and those sorts, where you're seeing some like of the crossover between, even in Mandalorian, there's some like B2s and there's still some droids like around, so it's like you're seeing some of the crossover, and I think the battle force makes sense to be like, hey, these are Rebels, but they're going to have some of these clones in them, or these are the whoever, the Empire, but they're gonna have some leftover droids or remnants of something. I think there's a lot of options there, which would be nice.
Yeah, I think they can really expand this stuff out. Like, something super cool could be, Vader backed by clones, since you still fight a lot in clones for a little bit. Or with sequel factions, since Resistance is basically Rebels, you could just release like Resistance heroes like Rey and Finn in them, and then just say you can't use the old heroes, because the Rebel troopers are basically the Resistance troopers. So I think this totally swings open the door for them to throw all sorts of stuff in.
So I'm going to dissent a little bit here. I think it's nice and awesome that we're getting all these sweet, cool new units. I'm a little bit wary of the idea of battle forces. I sort of wish they were just like new factions, or these units were released in factions that existed, or we would just make new factions for them, like the aforementioned Ewoks, or Shadow Collective was just a faction or something. Because I think the idea of I forget what they were called in 40k. It wasn't, I don't think it was battle force
formations.
They tended to start to be like the best, like specific ones would start to be like the best thing. So like if you wanted to play Rebels, for instance, you might have to play the Hoth battle force for your list to like really be competitively in the thick of it. And I'm just I'm wary that it might pigeonhole factions into certain units. And points sort of do that already to some degree, as far as like what's best, but I think it's a lot more open-ended than I have to take this certain combination of units within a faction to gain like these cool buffs and abilities or whatever. So I think it's awesome that we're headed in this direction. I am wary from a competitive Legion standpoint on what it means long-term for the game. And maybe these are just narrative rules that they're talking about and they're not going to have an effect on competitive play. Who knows? I sort of doubt that.
They specifically clarified that they would be legal for competitive play.
There you go. I mean, we'll see, right? Like clearly we don't have any of it really in our hands yet, but that's my disclaimer. I think that this idea has happened in a lot of other games and it definitely has, it's hard to balance.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on that. I love the concept. I think it's a great way to introduce something like Shadow Collective. But yeah, in other games, anytime you introduce like additional flexibility and then, advantages for utilizing that flexibility, you get the potential for basically like some kind of broken combo that, maybe you didn't foresee. Like 40K is famous for what they basically call Imperial Soup. And I don't know if that's still a thing, but there are like something like 20 factions in 40K, but I want to say like half of them are Imperial, things like Space Marines and, Sisters of Battle and Imperial Guard and whatever. And I don't know if you can still do this, but for a time you could take like allies if they were part of the same like overall faction. So Imperial players would just sort of like pluck all the best units from each of those factions and just like dump them into one giant soup of an army. And I don't think we're anywhere close to there yet with Legion, because A, there's not enough units, but B, everything so far, with a couple of notable exceptions, is pretty well balanced in Legion when you compare it to something like 40K. But I think there's anytime you get a situation like this, if it's too much of a free-for-all where you have like all these mercenary units that people can just pluck and the best ones, clearly there's a danger there of something like that happening. We don't have any idea what these look like yet, so I'm not gonna be worried until I see it, I guess, is the short version there.
Yeah, and I wonder too, I almost think that you may have to like start doing a separation in rules and say, because this, what kind of remind me of is what Age of Sigmar did, where they have like the Grand Alliances. And so they have all the different armies that you can build, like, so like if you got like, what is it? The Alliance of Order, right? It's all the elves and like empire and what used to be empire and dwarves and all that. And you can kind of mix and match and build your army based on that on a point system, and I think it's cool from a thematic standpoint, like it fills the story like we were talking about, but at the same time they'll probably have to do something special around competitive, because competitive is so specific that sometimes these cool special rules don't really play as well. And that's okay, but if they're gonna like, if I was them, I'd break it out, right? I'd have like a competitive, you'd have your competitive rules set, and then you'd have more like a, what's my dad with a beer game version of this, right? And it's just like, oh yeah, here's these alliances or battle forces that you can use, and that's not really for high competitive, that's for like our mid competitive game or whatever you would call it.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that assures me a little bit is it sounds like it's really just differences in force organization charts and then new command cards. So, right, Shadow Collective has some new units that are specific to it. But for Empire, right, if they just had 3 new command cards that worked with Snows or Veers or something, I don't know if that would be super game breaking. And so, while it does add some more complexity, I'm hoping that the way they're doing it sounds like they're trying to keep it somewhat under reins.
Yeah, and just because it's caused problems in other games doesn't mean that this could be a perfectly fine and balanced iteration of this concept.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't know until we see it. So
right, take everything we learned from those other games that broke it and just try to avoid those pitfalls, right?
Yep. And it seems like we can get to the pikes in a minute, but it seems like they're actually there are some hedges against that sort of thing already built into even the handful of things that we've seen. So sorry, Mike, I cut you off there.
No, you're good. I don't remember what I was gonna say. I think it was like pretty erroneously off topic. Somebody said perfectly fine and balanced, and I just recall every time I go to YouTube, there's a video series that pops up on my feed that's got a new video of like Civilization 6 perfectly fine and balanced, and it's like in a game or something.
I think one thing that Legion does have a leg up on also is, right, with a lot of games, just the more you get in there, the more variation, the more possible for like degenerate combos. MTG sees this, right? The older the format, the more degenerate it gets. But with Legion having points rebalances and then being open to erratas, that makes me a little more hopeful that as it gets longer, they keep this in tune, since unlike Magic, they'll just ban a card if it's too much. Whereas here we can actually rein stuff in or buff up Vader, as we're probably going to talk about in a bit.
Yeah, because
To the moon.
oh
To
boy,
the moon.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it right now.
Not a moon.
Yeah, why don't somebody list the changes here?
Before we do that, it's about time. Empire is about to start looking real good on the battlefield. Real good. This is
While I
happy.
still play Empire, right? I always play gun lines, and I've been, Bosk from back in the day, Boba Veers, Krennic Bosk, now Double Bounty. And let's just say this new Vader may convince me to finally take a Force user in the Imperial faction.
You
All
could.
right, so let's talk about the changes, then we can
all right.
do our take.
I'll go through it. So he's gonna get Vader. Commander Vader is gonna get a command slot.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to gain compel core troops or cores. He's going to on his implacable command card, it's going to give a dodge on activation, so that's 2 dodges during that. And then on Darkness Descends, if he does not divulge, he actually gets reliable too. So good. Oh, put some bursts of speed on him and everything's dead. Everything is dead.
I mean, that's kind of already the case, isn't it?
I mean, his points better be going back up is really all I have to say.
They didn't say anything about that.
This does not inspire confidence from my perspective. I don't want to rain on parades here, but Vader and Burst of Speed, like Vader before these changes in Burst of Speed was already going to be a potential problem. I don't know.
I've been proxying Burst of Speed on Vader since I thought it was going to be out for SoCal Open, since we expected Yoda to be coming out this month. And let's just say current Vader with Burst of Speed seemed really, really strong. And so these changes on top of it, once it's all these announced, Vader is going to be a terror on the table.
Like, I'm not really sure how you're supposed to kill him.
Huge command bubble. Snow troopers with compel. Oh, so good. I love it.
I mean, so yeah, I get that he's been bad for so long.
Yeah.
Or at least not optimal for so long.
Look, man, I played him for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, pal.
You played him for like the first year and a half
And
of
then
the game,
the
basically.
first sign of clones and you were gone. You betrayed the Empire.
No, that's not true. He waited till ARCs came out.
Yeah, that's right.
Damn straight.
The first sign of arcs and you were
The first
gone.
time of clones being OP.
It was just like a dust silhouette of Mike.
We'll see if his points end up staying the same. We don't know. They specifically did not say anything about that. I'm okay with Vader being terrifying if he's,
He
like
needs
if you have
to be.
if
Yeah.
you well, yes, he needs to be, but for everyone that wants to like relive that hallway scene in Rogue One, this game does have 2 players in it, and
Not anymore.
I'm like, there will be someone on the other side of the table as Vader, and while it's great to be able to like sort of like vicariously live through Vader blenderizing a bunch of stuff, Vader's opponent needs to feel like they're having fun too, or at least has the chance to have fun.
You don't want to be a cowering fleet trooper at the end of the hallway.
Yeah, no.
I'd like to reiterate something you and Mike said from, I think it was the last cast of the other cast. At a competitive level, you guys don't really have fun because it's competitive, right? So here we go.
I definitely did not say
Here we
that.
go. Oh,
that
yeah.
was definitely something I said.
Well,
Look, I
guess
just
what,
wanna,
Kyle?
I wanna
Guess what? All your droids are dead, buddy. All of them.
I'm gonna spew some quick math here. I think is just maybe where we should start. Okay.
Sure, if you want.
So let's assume for a second I think the best out of these buffs is actually the fact that you can get reliable too.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think it's a little stealth. I think the command slot, the compel core, and the dodge on implacable activation are all like good.
Yeah.
But they're not reliable too good.
Hang on, let's clarify 1 second because it's not actually reliable too. I think they said that during the game and then they later clarified.
Sure.
It's practically a reliable too. It's 2 surge tokens whenever he gets a face-up order.
Okay, so always
For the rest of the game.
Right, because you're
Yeah,
never
so in
not
any
going to be
Jedi
giving him
list,
an order.
yeah.
yeah.
It's effectively reliable too.
You're taking 6 Vader command cards in
Yes.
most Vader lists.
Yeah, but I just
That's-
wanted to point that out because it's a minor
Yeah.
distinction.
So his effective health with a surge to block on defense is 24. Like Palpatine is 15.
Yeah, so is Yoda.
You know, like
So is
we're
Boba.
like we're talking like, what is that? 66% increase in effective health. That's gigantic on top of the dodge tokens he gets from Implacable.
Yeah, because it used to be 16, so it went from 16 to 24. That's actually a 50% increase.
Let me ask
But
you
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Real quick. So because you can't, you don't do the divulge, right? So you're not getting him close to their army with the burst of speed shenanigans we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Understood, you can still get him there, but not as close, right? If you're not dropping him in.
Sure.
So do you think that starts to, I think that gives you, it's more just another tool in your tool belt, right? So you have the option to drop them in, burst the speed in, and just eat up their army. Or you could say, nah, you know what? I'm gonna get the 2 search tokens and I'm just gonna wait. I mean, that gives him that kind of like, all right, I'm blue player and it's VAPs. I'm just gonna give him this and give him reliable 2 for the rest of the game, and just wait for you to come to me. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's just extra versatility, right? Like against a gun line that can't deal with the Vader once he's buried, you can just divulge it because you don't need the health. And then against something else where he's gonna get shot, now he has 24 wounds.
yeah. It's
That's way more than any other force user by like 50%.
and
I think he's the
on-
tankiest trooper, period, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, he now can take vigilance because he's got a command slot, so he
Yeah.
can hold the dodge that he doesn't use. So you're kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you're gonna have to shoot him. Even you're gonna have to deal with the dodge eventually, you know. And on his Fear and Deadman turn, he can just kind of bank one, you know.
Yeah, because you're gonna have like 7.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Love it. So good. I'm so happy.
It is very good.
Yeah.
We'll see what the other Empire changes are. I hope that there will be, that this is not like a situation like in the height of the Tauntaun meta where you had Tauntaun lists and then you had bad Rebel lists, and those were your options.
Yeah.
I hope it's not Vader lists and then bad Empire lists.
I think
I hope that there are other good Empire options.
that's sort of like, I mean, I don't know what the price point is before I start considering Palpatine over Vader at this juncture. But like, I'd take the profile plus all these changes of Vader for like 230 before I even like glanced at Palpatine at this point.
I'm not sure I can disagree with you.
That's about where I'm at too.
I mean, I've been playing Force
240s
users
though.
for most of my Legion career, like the vast majority of it. So if it turns out that we're entering a Vader blender meta, then I'll just play Vader and be happy about it. But that's not everybody.
Yeah, I just hope it's not Vader lists and then bad not Vader lists
Yeah.
Or it's like Vader lists and you take force push, or you aren't competitive.
Or something like a whip or multiple whips with immobilized
Yeah.
tokens. And I'm not even sure how much that helps, really. But
No, you just take standby tokens on Vader. They can't
Yeah.
strip them.
yeah,
unless
that's
they
the
have
other
force
thing.
push.
That's one thing that I don't see people doing enough on either version of Vader is taking force users in general, but especially on Vader is taking standbys. But anyway, this is not a tactics episode.
No, it's not. It's not. Anyway, I mean, like, glad for Empire players. I'm nervous.
Vader
about
possibly
this.
terrifying, depending on points
Finally.
costs and other Empire. Yes. Okay. Yes, finally. But like,
No. You guys don't get a butt. Mr. You two jump
No,
in
there's a
army
butt.
to army to whatever best unit you can get. No. It's
I
about
painted
time
like 4 separatist units every weekend.
for for the guy who's just been holding
yeah, I've played the same list like 4 tournaments in a row, Jay. Come on.
because it's still good.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean, I hope that Vader is a strong competitive choice. My fear is that he will be a like auto whatever. If you're playing Empire, you're playing Vader, you're playing something bad, like it was in the Tauntaun meta. So we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't preview any other errata or points changes other than that.
Yeah.
So we're sort of jumping to conclusions on that other stuff right
Yeah.
now, but yeah, certainly it makes this on top of burst of speed makes him terrifying. So
I think TLDR is if this Vader is under 230 points, he's gonna be real good.
Yeah. All right. They also said that there would be changes to all of the bounty hunters, Baba Bosk and Cad Bane. They did not specify what they would be, except that they would be essentially getting the mercenary treatment, whatever that's going to end up looking like. So
Yeah, I'm real excited for this. Since bounty hunters, especially like in double bounty in particular, you're just running the bounty hunter cards and then like C's and improvised orders. So you're essentially playing under the mercenary rules already. So whatever buffs they're getting, lists like that are really gonna like it. It is gonna hurt a bit more though, like a Veer's Boba or something along those lines potentially. But we don't know what the buffs will be. But I'm excited for it to say the least.
Yeah.
me too. You know, they're all kind of in a weird spot competitively right now, even Cad Bane, despite being a separatist unit. he sort of
Can't
bears
be
the
useless.
unfortunate distinction of being like the lone you know, separatists. The joke is that they're like the best balanced faction overall, except Cad Bane. So
Well, he has to compete with Maul, who is arguably the best operative in the game. So there's also that.
yeah, accurate. But
I don't think
it's
I'll be
not, it's
putting
not
Boba
just,
on the table.
it's not
if
just
I had
that.
Maul. Yeah.
I would say before he came out, we weren't using Cad Bane
Yeah.
because he was terrible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's terrible. He's just not like,
If he was in any other faction, I think he'd see play.
possible.
Mm.
All right. Anyway, we don't know what those changes are, so we can't. Really. All right. There was another big. They actually did talk about one more big change that's coming in the
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
and that is flipping 4 cards instead of 3 in the ban phase.
Not my preferred solution, but you know what? I'll take it.
Yep.
2 thumbs up for me.
So you still what? So you're
You
still
can't
gonna
force
get
anything, right?
Yeah, you can't force the 3rd slot as the end result.
Because the red player always gets the last ban, blue player only gets 2 bans, right? So like
Yep.
unless you as red player like use your first ban to allow them to like force whatever in the 4th slot. I don't know. They would have to ban something in that row. You would then have to ban something in that row.
Yeah,
You know, it's
understood.
Yeah, you only get to that last slot if red player wants to get to that last slot is the
Right.
end result of this.
Yeah.
No more like,
Yeah, that's
you know,
interesting.
speeder list goes up against the gun line, 25% chance bombing run comes up in that 3rd slot, and the gun line list is just like, all right, you want to save 3 hours?
so I do think to that point, nobody's ever going to play bombing run again. Like that's probably just not going to happen. And like,
This is what you wanted.
And yes, no doubt. I think it's a
It's-
bad objective, but like
it's kind of an indirect way to have like a player initiated card ban of problematic battle cards because they just never get played. I mean, you like if you have speeder lists that are facing other speeder lists and you feel like your list is slightly better at bombing run, you might see it. But yeah, if you don't have speeders and you're facing a speeder list and you're a red player, if you end up on bombing run, you've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah, and I guess what that means overall is that speeder lists are just going to be a lot less good. Yeah, I mean, like they're still going to pack the punch that they normally do. Like triple staps is still going to be able to like, come in.
I think they're still going to be fine.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I don't think they're going to be like bid 30 points for your objective deck.
I think one particular list isn't going to be as good and as much of a take, but I think other speeder lists are going to be fine because I think speeders are still good outside. I think staps are still good, but it's not going to be the like you said, 30 bid to 12 activation list. That's not going to happen as much anymore.
Yeah, I think that was the goal with this, right? Hopefully rein in bids and then deal with those problematic cards. So as long as there's not two cards that are problematic for one list.
Yeah.
But that's still, I guess, lower because you need them both to be in the last two slots. So it even makes that less of a big deal.
I mean, it sort of narrows down like the sort of, I think the intent, quote unquote, of blue player advantage, which is tailoring your overall deck in a way that's more nuanced rather than just kind of going like all in on that 25% chance that you get one card that you're looking for. So I think that seems like unequivocally a good thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Good change.
Yeah, thumbs up. Awesome change. All right. Should we hit some unit cards?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm all
Sure.
about it. Because this infantry support platform looks sweet.
Yeah, let's talk about
fast.
let's talk about it. Somebody want to hit this unit card or just walk through what's on it?
Yeah, I got you. All right, so the new infantry support platform, it is 65 points and it has armor 3, cover 1, which is like basically pseudo cover 4. Clearly it's pretty good. It's not quite armored, but it's pretty close. It's got hover ground. It's got weak point 1 rear and sides, which interacts weirdly with only having armor 3 as opposed to armor, and that they don't really matter that much. And it has a pilot upgrade, a hard point, comms upgrade, 7 health on a white defense die, 5 resilience value, surge hit, surge defense. It is speed 3 on, I assume, at least an ATRT base. It is a heavy support, and its main gun, which you're probably never going to use, is DC 15 blaster rifle at range 1 to 3 to black. I think maybe to inform this conversation, I think we've got to look at the weapon slots for it. They previewed 3. The first is twin blaster cannons, range 1 to 3, 6 black dice. Infantry support platform only, 40 points, which means this is bringing it up to 105. When you activate, you may have this weapon's dice and keyword values until the end of your activation. If you do, gain Gunslinger. Critical 2, fixed front. So basically, you can fire 1 shot with 6 dice, or you can fire 2 shots at 3 dice, and each one would have critical 1 instead of critical 2. Real good fire support platform.
Yep.
So
that seems to be.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is this any different than if it had 2 3-dice guns in Arsenal 2? Is there a reason that for fire support that needs to be worded this way?
I don't think so. So I think as we go through these, you'll find that the idea behind this is that this has kind of got like the twin linked thing from 40K going on, where like the weapons are supposed to be combined in some fashion. I think that's probably the only reason. Like nuts and bolts, no, it's not any different.
There's also weirdness around where you can't use like the same weapon with the same name twice in the same attack or something like that. So
Oh, is that a real? That's probably why then.
I think so. Yeah.
So there's 2 more upgrades here, both of which are 40 points. So all of these hard points bring it up to 105. The next one is twin beam cannons, range 1 to 4, 2 red, 2 white, beam 2, fixed front. Pretty good. This is basically maximum firepower 3 times without
Swap in the other beam gun.
Well, it's 2 red, 2 white, so it's not quite, the dice
Yeah.
aren't quite as good. But yeah, it's 3 attacks with 2 red, 2 white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last one, which is maximum firepower, is twin missile pods, range 2 to 4, 4 red dice. When you activate, you may have this weapon's dice and keyword values until the end of your activation. If you do, gain gunslinger impact 2 fixed front. So all of these things are twin weapons. The blaster cannons and the missile pods you can split and shoot at different targets, and the beam cannon has beam. And I think the last upgrade here before we kind of open the floor completely is the 327 Star Corps Elite Armor Pilots. Infantry support platform only while attacking. If a friendly unit uses fire support, you gain surge to crit. Thoughts?
Yeah,
Seems
it's pretty
good.
Yeah.
Seems tailor-made for fire support,
Yeah.
which I guess is almost literally in the name, right? Infantry support platform. So
So here's the question, Mike, as our resident clone player. How many of these you putting in your list? And what are you giving it?
I think if you're taking this, you're taking 105. Basically, this is 110 points because I think you're taking the pilot.
Yep.
I'm questionable on that because it's surge to hit already. Surge, basically all surge crit is really doing is making you a lot better against armored targets. And so that might be a question mark. But if you're taking this, you are taking it with the express, like your intention is fire supporting. That's what you're doing. And you're using this as the platform. You're spiking off.
So then does that require HQ uplink on this?
I think probably no, not
you want to
inherently.
give it an LTA.
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple big things here. It's not a clone trooper. It cannot share aim tokens, and the units that are fire supporting can't spend their own aim tokens. So I think you want link targeting array on it. The other thing is, like, worst case scenario for this thing is like your ambush turn, and your ambush turn is going to look like you giving this the order from the ambush card, and then your clone commander directs to your 5s unit, hands an order to it, and then 5s hands an order to another clone trooper unit, and you have on your ambush turn, this has an order, and the 2 things that are fire supporting are going to have orders. So you've already, and the other thing is the generic Republic 1 pip hands out a free order when you give an order to a vehicle, I'm pretty sure. So no, I don't think you need HQ uplink. Like, you certainly could take it. I don't think it's a requirement. Republics generally swimming in order tokens anyways. So I don't know if taking this is going to be better than just shooting with a Z6 and fire supporting with another Z6.
Yeah,
Especially if you got surge tokens lying around.
Yeah, I don't know. It definitely, if you want to do the combo thing and fire support multiple times on the opening activation of turns, it's definitely a lot better at that.
And it's also really fast. So maybe you could get some out of cover shots or different angles or something like that.
Yeah, this strikes me as a unit that's, when it's good, it's going to feel really, really bad to be on the receiving end of it. Realistically, this could enable your opponent to throw like 24-ish dice split between 2 separate units before you get to go.
Your real gross alpha strike.
Yeah. So I mean, like for like you can just like instantly delete like 2 B1 squads or 2 rebel trooper squads with this thing, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you think you would take this as an armor hedge potentially for clones? Since, right, you could turn a Z6 and a surge crit, and the twin missile pods shred armor being fire supported.
Yeah, I think the missile pods are a lot better than the blaster cannons, just from like a hedging perspective. Like you're really only losing 1 die on each fire support attack when you split it, and 2 red is, you know, a little worse than 3 black, but not by that much, you know. And the fact that you get impact is, yeah, I mean, I think to me the missile pods are, if I'm taking anything, I'm taking the missile pods probably.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of clones bringing RPSs, and so I wonder, I think to me at least, it seems like a better option, a little more expensive than a phase 1, but much better armor hedge than a cumbersome RPS.
I think you probably take them both. And now you've got impact 4 on whatever you're shooting at.
Impact 4 and surge crit.
Yes.
Yeah.
just to be clear.
Yeah.
I'll shoot your spears out of the sky. Again, like this is sort of like a unit that, because it doesn't have clone trooper, it's tough to know where it lies, but it definitely has potential synergy, I think, to rise above the fact that it doesn't, unlike I think like the ATRTs and stuff.
All right, should we hit the snail tank?
Let's do it.
All right. The full name of this thing is the NR-N99 Persuader class tank droid. Looks very persuasive. This one is from the Battle of Kashyyyk. It's basically like it even has like snail eyeballs. It's basically like a giant snail, which is why it's called the snail tank. But it is big. They they actually did they show the actual model on stream?
I think they painted one during a panel.
Yeah. It from the screenshots that I saw. I didn't catch all the painting streams, unfortunately, but it looked enormous. So,
I think this could do the wall thing people were speculating the bus could do before we knew that you could see people's feet. Looks tall enough to be a wall.
Yes, it does. And it goes all the way down to the ground. So
yep.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and it's got the same movement profile essentially too, right? Reposition with speed 1 and a ginormous base. So
I mean, sort of. It
doesn't have
a
access to
compulsory move.
reckless driver,
Yeah.
So it's going to be harder to do that. It's also like substantially more expensive, 145 points. So, but it has full armor, Arsenal 2. It has the programmed keyword that we saw in the spider droids, which we now know what all those cards are, which we can talk about in a minute. Reposition, transport 1 open, so you can throw a squad of B2s on here if you want. And weak point 1 sides. It's got 11 health, a white save with surge, 7 resilience, surge hit. It has a programming, a ordnance, and a comm slot, and then it has 2 weapons printed on its card. The first of which is ion cannons. This is a rainbow, so red, black, white, range 1 to 2, impact 1, ion 1, fixed front. I think this is the first non-exhausting ion weapon in the game, besides those little grenades, I guess.
Off the top of my head, yeah. Like I'm looking at the unit card and seeing ion 1 like printed on a unit card, and I think that's the first time it's like not on an upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And then its main weapon is heavy repeating blasters, range 1 to 4, red, black, black, white, white, critical 1, fixed front. So decent firepower for something that costs 145 points. Not like, I don't think that's why you're taking this thing. But it's going to be able to throw some dice at stuff while you're moving it around with a B2HA in the back of it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty analogous to the Imperial tank to some degree.
Yeah.
There's a lot like a ATST health pool with a saber tank body, or sorry, not saber, occupier tank body.
Yeah.
Although notably much taller looking, which could be helpful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean the occupier alone with some of the shenanigans you can do with cover is great. So now being able to do that without even seeing the units behind it will be nice.
Or imagine if you could throw B2s in an occupier.
Yeah.
Yeah, also that. But even like one of the primary weaknesses of the occupier is that since it's so low to the ground and it's not a repulsor vehicle, there are a lot of times where it just gets blocked by stuff that like random pieces of scatter terrain that are that are too tall.
Don't I know?
So
You don't model it with the boxes and a vertical stack on it so you can go over things.
a pillar of boxes,
A pillar of
modeled
boxes.
on top of it. They're magnetized boxes. Yeah, so this would seem to have at least a slightly easier time of overcoming that weakness of the occupier. And yeah, like you said, you can put a squad of E2s in it. So, any other thoughts on this thing before we talk about the protocols?
I mean, I think it's pretty lethal up close. I think you slap an ordnance upgrade on it, and you've got some like real flexibility at range 4. You know,
Yeah. And I would say it's close to the ATST. I mean, minus the impact, it's just missing one red die, but like it's got Arsenal too. So you could throw something on there. And I don't know. I think that triple rainbow that the ATST has is a lot better than people give it credit for. And it's got the built-in surge on hit, which is nice. I mean, it's got a lot of nice things that you have to like upgrade for with the ATST. So
Yeah, I think for me at that range, though, I don't know if it hedges out the AAT. Right, the AAT is so great at range 4. I think it's close, but for me, I think it edges out there. I would see this more as rolling up with B2s or something, or Magna Guards, and just being real tough to kill and giving B2s permanent heavy cover, which is pretty solid when you're moving as fast as this thing is.
yeah, I do think you're right. I think like if you're not utilizing the transport capacity, you're probably taking the AAT, right? Like,
Yeah, AAT is tougher, better firepower, longer range.
mhm.
Clearly a little more expensive, but
you also can't do like blocking shenanigans with it and stuff. I mean, like you can, but you generally don't. Not as like aggressively, at least.
as
Yeah.
you would with this. Yeah. It's interesting. So it looks like a decent heavy. Like every other separatist release. Hey, yeah, this looks pretty good.
I do think
Not crazy, not bad, pretty good.
the protocols I think are also pretty important.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the big differences between this and the AAT is I think defensive protocols. I don't know if we're ready to move there, but that really
let's hit
sticks out to me.
Yeah.
I
You
guess-
want to read them to
Sure.
us?
So we got 3 different protocols. We got the attack protocols, which give you, it's 3 points. You get AI aim and precise 2. We have engagement protocols, which gives you AI attack and move. That one's 5 points, a little bit more of like standard AI we see on a lot of stuff. And then we also have defense protocols, which gives you dodge, nimble, and outmaneuver. Defensive protocols, to me, it reads immune arc strike teams.
Yeah. Although, I mean, sort of, because
Sort of. Please go ahead.
well, the thing is, like, droids, separatists do not have a lot of ways to get dodge tokens to vehicles. There's basically one way to do it without the vehicle actually taking the dodge action, and that's the strategized keyword on super tax, right?
I gotta beg to differ, like out the gate. Every one of your B1 units can have portable scanners.
Okay, I guess.
I was just going to
but
say, yeah.
I mean, like if you're doing the heavy thing,
I guess
a lot of the heavy lists have a lot of naked B1s rolling around, and
they do.
you know,
Or you just
those-
take 2 of these guys with like a super tax droid, 2 B2s, and
Yeah, I
roll
think
it
I'd
all up
rather
in your
do.
opponent's face.
I think I'd rather do it with strategize if I'm gonna center a strategy around giving dodges to a heavy, then I'm probably gonna use the super tactical
For
droid.
sure. You use this word
I know.
only, and I wanted to clarify.
It's just like, when are you gonna take a dodge action with a snail tank? And the answer is almost never, basically.
Yeah.
But
I think it's worth saying though, kind of like Timbo's Saber list that really came out of nowhere. It basically just leverages outmaneuver and a couple dodges on the Saber and makes it real hard to kill. So, being able to put that on 2 units and support them both relatively easily. I think it could be a sleeper combo.
Could be. Yeah. I like it a lot better than the aim one.
Maybe on this specifically. Yeah. It's worth noting that all these go on the DSD spider droids as well.
They do. Yeah. So I think on the snail tank, the aim and the dodge one are both substantially more palatable than they are on the spider droids, just because like you want to be, you're gonna have 1 or 2 of these persuaders, so it's going to be a lot easier to give them face-up orders than you're possibly going to have like 3 spider droids. So if you don't want to be stuck doing AI aim or AI dodge all the time, you got to be using override or face-ups, and on 3 units that's a lot harder than it is on 1 or 2. So I think you're taking I think you're taking the engagement protocols on the spider droids like 9 out of 10 times.
Do you think the attack protocols have a place on the spider droid? Like have you guys gone over all the guns for that?
When did they spoil those?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know.
I don't remember either.
Well, there's a 2 to 4 ion gun in case it hasn't been spoiled. And I could see somewhere where you could do attack protocols and you're just kind of sitting back aim shooting with it.
But you have to recover with the ion gun if you want to use it every turn.
This is true.
Well, that's why you
And there's no
are
AI
taking a
recover.
super attack droid and just overriding all 3 DSTs every turn.
Yeah, but then you don't have the aim token to take advantage of precise 2 because you're doing recover shoot.
Well, then you're using the super attack to what's it called, strategize.
There you go. I mean, yeah, you strategize it. I don't know. I do think that you're probably throwing like attack protocols on at least 1 of the DSTs. I could see 1 of them on attack and 2 on engagement.
I guess, yeah. If you're basically just camping a super attack near them, and there's that super attack's sole purpose is to feed the spider droids, then I guess yeah. But if I'm taking spider droids, I feel like I want them to be kind of autonomous from my super attack and use the super attack for like your BX strike teams or your Magna Guard or your B2s or something like that instead.
I definitely think engagement protocols is the more obvious choice there, right?
Yeah.
You're wanting to get in there and blow stuff up. So AI attack move is kind of AI. You don't have AI anymore for that unit's purpose.
Yeah, it's worth noting on the spider droids, like if you do take the ion gun, you might have to kind of like reverse your normal cycle of how you shoot with an exhaust weapon, because often that is like you move and shoot it and then it's exhausted, and then the following turns you recover and then you shoot and you recover shoot. None of these protocols have AI recover on them. So if you're using engagement protocols, that first one is going to be a move and then an attack, and then you're probably going to have to use that super attack 3-pip to recover it, so you can kind of get in the cycle of attack recover, like the opposite order. But just something to be aware of if you plan on using ion spiders. None of these have AI recover on them, so a little awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. These are all, I think they're fine.
Yeah.
And they're also required. So, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to take one.
Yeah. And it's in separatist. What was it to say? Everything looks viable and it doesn't look OP or too bad.
Defense protocols might be busted, but we'll see.
Yeah.
It's possible that version of the snail tank that you talked about where you're just blocking crits constantly is a little bit of a problem, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get through armor, right? Is crits.
Yeah.
So All right. Should we talk about the Shadow Collective stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure people are like chomping at the bit for us to talk about this at this point.
We can't talk about this right away because then you would just stop listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, or was it tune out once they're done?
Yeah. All right. Who wants to go over this Pike unit card?
I'll do it. All right. So Pike Syndicate Foot Soldiers, Danger Sense 2, outmaneuver. So you can spend dodge tokens to cancel crits. Self-preservation. When checking whether you panic, you cannot use the courage value of units that are not in the same affiliation as you. Independent dodge 1. So at the start of the activation phase, if you don't have an order token, you gain a dodge. So it's kind of like AI, I guess, a little bit. They roll white defense dice. They surge on defense. They have a blaster that's range 1 to 3, P13 long blaster, range 1 to 3, 1 black, speed 2, stun baton for their melee, 2 white. They have a heavy upgrade, a regular unit upgrade, a whatever that's called, gear slot, and a grenade slot. 4 minis. We don't know how much they cost, and they hit the cost and the whatever Shadow Syndicate they're going to be in, or whatever the icon is for that, I'm assuming.
Gonna talk about those heavy weapons too, because this is kind of
Yeah.
all rolled together.
Sure. So you have the P13M Disruptor Soldier, range 1 to 4, a red, 2 black, Pike Syndicate Foot Soldiers only, impact 1, 24 points.
You sure that's impact and not immobilize?
Ouch.
Zing.
There was some confusion on the stream. Initially, they were playing the whip and the gun like as the same, like kind of mind melding those together, I guess. And it was like a range 4 weapon with immobilize, which would obviously be ridiculous.
Maybe
thankfully
ideally,
that's not what it is. So
ideally they'll learn the game. Electro Whip and Soldier. Electro Whip Soldier here. So melee range 1, 2 red, immobilize 1, and suppressive for 10 points. Ooh. Do you want to, and then the Foot Soldier for, these are just regular upgrades. You want to do these, Kyle? You okay with me doing these?
Yeah, go for it.
go for it.
Okay. So Pike Syndicate Foot Soldier, you gain cash aim 1. During setup, place 1 aim token on this card. You can spend this token on this card. You have this keyword even if this mini is defeated. So if the mini goes away, you still get your aim token if you want it. Pike Syndicate Capo, this is the captain. Your courage is increased by 1. You gain independent surge 1 at the start of the activation phase. If you do not have an order, gain a surge token. This is your leader for 16 points. And then do you guys want to talk about this before we move on to the Capo unit?
Yeah. Let's talk about this unit before we go anywhere. So I think it's a little bit tough to talk about how good this is without knowing the base unit's cost.
Yep. I would guess 50s, low 50, high 40s probably would be my guess.
I mean, they kind of look like rebel troopers with some better keywords, some worse keywords. They have danger sense 2, which is notionally like pretty good on a core unit, but they only have courage 1, so
there's no dauntless,
and they don't have dauntless or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they also panic at 2 suppression if you don't take a commander that has the same affiliation. So I don't think you're probably not getting a lot of use out of danger sense. The use that you're getting out of this is if you have like an out of position unit that's just getting hammered, and then they get progressively harder to kill, but also they're probably going to panic or not be super useful on the next turn anyway.
No.
So it makes it harder to like focus and eliminate a unit, but this isn't going to be the same as like on Pathfinders or Jin, where they're still able to kind of run around and do their thing while also tanking stuff. If they're tanking stuff, they're going to be so suppressed that they're not going to be able to do anything. So, which can still be its own benefit, but
I could see him like as a one of with the capo in it. right? It makes danger sense a little better, and then you just don't give them orders, and they have that independent surge and dodge, which they did confirm. You get all the different independent triggers whenever it happens, so you get the dodge and the suppression.
Yeah, and unlike AI, these are net benefits, not drawbacks.
Right,
right?
It's a straight benefit. So it could be pretty durable in that situation, right? Free dodge, danger sense, slightly higher courage to take, so they don't get hammered as much by that suppression. They just kind of look like Rebel Troopers to me, which I think is good. Like
a combo of Rebel Troopers and Rebel Vets. To some extent, like the independent dodge one is pretty similar to like defend one, except reverse, like clearly better.
Right, because you don't normally give orders to core units anyway, unless you're separatists, so
or Republic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And and I mean, like the 4, so it's generic 4 black at range 3 plus the disruptor rifle is 6 black 1 red at range 3. Like that's basically a DLT. It's better than a DLT.
Than a DLT 20,
right? With the like a Rebel DLT.
It's debatable because the Rebel DLT has critical, and these guys don't normally surge. So
sure. I guess if you got the capo, or sort of hard to say, but it's close.
Yeah, it seems this feels more to me like the Imperial DLT. Because it has impact on it instead of critical.
Sure.
I think it's a little better than that since you have 3 dice. Like, I would love to have something like that on a Stormtrooper, but
you have the chance to break cover.
Yeah, it's like a Stormtrooper DLT, but with an extra dice, basically. It's actually slightly worse overall average hits than a Stormtrooper DLT. Because the Stormtroopers surge, so it's 14 out of 8 instead of this is 12 out of 8 without a surge token.
Sure,
but it is an extra dice. So I mean, this feels like a DLT, which feels
like a core unit.
Yeah, exactly. Like nothing looking at this jumps out at me as like crazy.
I sort of disagree. The whip, depending on the price of the base unit, that whip is gonna be really good. Like
it's only range 1. I feel like this guy could suffer from the same thing that like the radiation droid suffers from, which is that these guys have white saves, and it's like it's not you're putting an assault weapon on a unit that's not an assault unit.
No doubt, it's kind of the fleet trooper deal. It's just the difference in price is substantial.
Yes, 10 points is very cheap. I mean, this is unquestionably the cheapest heavy weapon upgrade that exists, I think, right? So far that we've seen.
I mean, so. It's 1 point more than the personnel upgrade, So I mean, like you could easily have like a 6-man squad for cheaper than like your normal 5-man with a heavy weapon, right? I mean, like the whip and the extra dude is 19 points, the disruptor is 24, right? So
it could be a pretty good like hedge against melee threats. Just take one unit with the whip and throw that extra guy on there, and sometimes you're throwing 6 black dice at range 3, and sometimes you're throwing immobilized tokens on a Jedi.
I think it's very reasonable.
For like 50 points if they're priced around a Rebel Vet or Rebel Core. Not bad at all.
So it's not super clear like how you take these guys, but what they did confirm, since they used them on the stream, is that Separatists can take them in some capacity.
Oh, great. Separatists get more units that look pretty good.
I don't think it's going to be just Separatists getting anything out of this expansion, but
look, man.
I do think it's worth noting that the mechanic of independent, I think, will synergize really nicely with some hero-centric lists, like potentially Shadow Collective Maul and Bounty Hunters. Being able to put all your orders on heroes and actually get net benefits from having, timing neutral core. That's where my mind went immediately. So that seems like a pretty cool combo if you're wanting to run, Maul with Bounty Hunter, sign me up.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that, like, if you need to put an order on them, it's actually somewhat punishing.
It's like actively bad.
Yeah. Which seems to be the intent here.
Yeah.
But
I like it. It's like a reverse CIS. Your guys are good, but you don't want to have good order control.
Yep. All right, Pike Syndicate Capo. Is it capo or capo?
I mean, I'm
Capo.
assuming it's
I always thought it
captain.
was capo, but I heard they all said capo, and then I heard someone say in mob movies they say capo. So
Okay. I'm picturing like a guitar capo, and I know that's clearly the wrong context for this. So
Yeah,
That would be
entirely. Yeah. Yeah, so they have this keyword at the top, which they said was aid, even though it's blocked off. And I'm assuming that symbol means the syndicates. When you would gain an aim, dodge, or surge token, another friendly syndicate unit at range 1 and in line of sight may gain that token instead. If they do, you gain a suppression. Danger sense 2, independent dodge 1. They have 4 health, courage 2, white die for saves, surge on defense. They're Capo's P13 long blaster, range 1 to 3, 3 black dice. Unarmed for their melee, 1 black. They have a command slot and a gear slot. Yeah, depends
Yeah.
on how much they cost.
Yeah,
I mean,
we have no idea how much they cost.
Right.
That makes a big difference here.
Looks like generic officers, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna guess somewhere between 40 and 60 points. Which
I would, yeah, I'd probably say they're going to come in a little bit more expensive because they do some more stuff. So I would probably say 60 to on the 60 side.
Do they really do more stuff though? I mean, aid is basically like take cover
Yeah,
or
that's
spotter
fair. That's fair.
in a different form.
you can't upgrade it with scanners or binoculars, so it's kind
Right.
of like a. So I think right now you're not really taking officers or without scanners or binoculars.
well, so I think that's maybe like a hidden thing in here, that this is actually better than both of those things, because it kind of has spotter and take cover built in, because you can just take the aim action or the dodge action in addition to the independent dodge, right? So you can actually hand out like 2 dodges and an aim with this guy.
Yeah, it's more tokens.
Yeah.
And
Then
it
take
gears
cover
up
or
your danger
spotter.
sense for you, which is nice.
Right.
Yep, there you go. Charge your danger sense in the process.
So yeah, I think it probably could be closer to 60, because
You
of
could
that.
also use this as like a, it's just whenever they gain one. So if they have other ways to gain tokens, you can kind of use them as like a comms relay for tokens, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of cute. But yeah, unclear how much they cost. It seems like it's going to be sort of necessary to take these guys if your Pike Syndicate foot soldiers are panicking at 2 suppression if you don't. So,
yeah.
Seems like you take one of these guys and a few pikes, or you're maybe just taking one of the units and putting the capo in the unit itself.
Yeah.
right. They are the only mercenary shadow collective, whatever we're calling them, unit card that we saw were the pikes, those 2 pike unit cards. But there are also Maul's Mandos, which I think the canon name for those is Mandalorian Super Commandos. They actually, like, they had the red thing, the Maul horns, everything. They look awesome. And then we had
Hey,
Black Sun.
Mike, you watched these series. Weren't some of the other Mandalorians before the split? They fought for Maul, right, for a little while, and then they split off and decided not to. So I think maybe you could even have the Mandalorian Resistance. If they're gonna do these weird battle forces, maybe there'll be a unit that could potentially be.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Oh, I guess
She didn't quite catch that. Yeah. So I if I'm recalling,
well, my
correctly,
phone didn't like that conversation at all.
I think the Mandos that fought for Maul before they had like the spiky helmets and stuff was Death Watch, I think. And which leads me to think that we probably won't see Mandalorian Resistance fall into that role, just because Mandalorian Resistance and Clan Ren is like very different than Death Watch, right?
Yeah, very specifically different. Yeah.
They could always just put some in like that box that don't have the spiky helmet, and then because I think some of Maul's Mandos did just have red armor. So
Yeah.
you could just
Yeah, they didn't
paint
all
him in
have the
Death Watch
spikes.
colors.
They didn't all worship him as a god or whatever's going on there with the spiky helmets.
They just thought he was cool.
I think
Um,
yeah.
They're just
I mean, Gar
repping their
Saxon
Mandalore.
had spikes, right?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Gar Saxon
Okay.
did, yeah.
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 Listen, spikes are cool.
Spikes are cool.
He's
Yeah, they-
Mandalore, man. You gotta be reverent. It's their religion.
Yeah,
It
spikes
is.
is the new
Yeah.
black.
There you go. Red and black is the new black. Uh, they also showed some Black Sun models and then swoop bikes. So
Yeah, the swoop bike models look pretty good.
they do.
They
Gotta
look
They
admit.
look
awesome.
really good.
Um,
I mean, all these models look really good. Like,
Yeah.
they had some of the painted pike models on that bat rep.
the pike.
They
They
models
look
dope.
great.
Yeah.
Yep.
I definitely will be using old mall. I think because I
We'll
don't
see.
like
We'll see
new
with the head
sculpt.
sculpts and
We'll
stuff.
see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I also like. I think I like old mall's pose better.
I don't know. I like the tactical rock jumping forward
Well,
dark
it's,
saber situation.
It's Glass from Mandalore, right? It's so when he fights Ahsoka, they're in like that throne room. It's actually one of the windows like broken on the
Oh, is
ground.
it?
So it has like all these Mandalorian embellishments on it.
There you go.
Interesting.
I worry about this because any of you guys play Marvel, but like Crisis Protocol, the models get real complex, and it's like, yeah, all right. And like the higher they get, the more like delicate they are. And so I'm just like, I saw that and I'm like, oh God, I hope we're not doing that with this game. Because that makes it, they're just real delicate.
They look
So-
amazing though. Like,
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Absolutely.
You
Well,
want old Princess Leia with her feet on the ground? All
Listen,
steady and
As someone who played a lot of old fantasy Warhammer, I one of the nice things about Legion was the soft plastic, because I could drop it and it wouldn't snap my lightsaber off or an arm or something. So I don't know. I'm prone to dropping my figures. So
My only issue with the dynamic bases, and it's not a big one, is that I tend to theme my army's bases. And if you can't put that figure on a regular base that I can like make fit in with the rest of my army, I'm going to be a little grumpy, but I'm sure it's workable.
I'm sure
or
you
just turn
can-
it into a tactical rock, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, or
I
just
have no
chop
idea.
off the bottom part of the rock, and then there would be a way to do it.
I'm
Or
sure.
you just base
Yeah.
over it and it's a dirt hill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 turn it into a tactical body. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. If I'm leaping over a,
Tactical
I guess it
clone.
would be like a clone, or like a resisting Mandalorian, or something like that.
Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
He didn't have
Yo.
robot legs at that point, Jay.
Well,
You could do
I want
Obi-Wan.
Qui-Gon in this game so badly.
And
All the
Qui-Gon.
Jedi. I want all the Jedi.
hey, with
Well-
the what's it called? The alternate forces, the battle forces. Maybe they could do like a episode 1-1.
Gungans.
I mean, I
To
think
release- yeah.
that's very reasonable. That is one thing that I think the battle forces will lead us to more, is like scenarios where I don't think we would have seen Qui-Gon in a Republic army normally, right? Because he was
all your core
dead-
units
dead.
are
Spoilers.
all your core units are younglings with lightsabers.
I would be all over that. That would be great. It would be fantastic.
Would Anakin get special bonuses against that armor?
Yes, obviously. Yeah.
You could
Commander
be
Vader
Youngling
gets
Hunter.
Youngling Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
search the curt when you're attacking younglings.
Yeah. The equivalent of Makashi Mastery when you're attacking younglings. Yeah. You ignore immune pierce when attacking younglings. All right, let's talk about, we got in addition to those models, we also got people have been calling him Dad Bod Boba Fett, but basically Boba Fett from the Mandalorian TV show, complete with gaffy stick.
Yeah, it seems great.
Yeah.
So should be noted that we got like a digital version of the model.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
not
yeah.
it was
This
not
was stuff
printed.
for like, what did they say, late 2022 or 2023? from
I think they may
Boba
have said
Fett?
2023.
Okay.
They said 2022 to 2023, I think.
Okay.
'Cause
God.
This was their big this is the first like pure AMG thing we'll see, whereas everything else has been either full FFG or like started there.
Yeah. So this is the first first AMG release will be this Mandalorian Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. God,
Sorry.
it's really bothering me.
I don't know if you're saying that as like a meme or not, so I'm not gonna say anything.
Kyle's just old. We just ignore him sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, I say things wrong all the time. It's
Yeah,
fine,
we
you
just
know.
let him go.
Yeah, just let me go. This model looks cool, or at least the digital rendering of this model looks cool.
Yeah.
So
That's it. I mean, listen, it was a great part of the show, and he seems cool. I don't know if it was the first model I would have shown from that show, but okay.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I think the most interesting thing they said about this model was that it was going to be usable in Rebels.
That
I
makes
was
sense.
just gonna say I'm a little salty about that.
I
as
think
an
they said
Empire player.
probably, right?
Probably Rebel. I don't know. I recall
That's-
hearing Rebels, but
I
maybe.
think you've probably got to figure that for anyone who's watched Mandalorian, right? Like everybody in that kind of switches sides a lot. Like, I mean, Mandalorian started off as a bounty hunter, right? And then he kind of went good, sort of. So I mean, I don't know. I think they should just make him cross faction.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for flavor wise, right? Like he's on Tatooine, stranded, and like the show is the first time he gets all that armor, so it makes sense as Rebels. I just, I would love to have Dad Bod Fett run along Stormtroopers and Vader or something.
Yeah, he
guess,
specifically says he doesn't like the Empire in the show, though. So I think
Yeah.
at that point in his life, he's over it.
Are we classifying like the Mandalorian and the Child and all of them as like Rebel characters?
I don't know. They
Technically.
didn't.
I
Well,
assume
I'm
so,
just
if
acting from like
Boba
our
is.
narrative. Like how does I don't understand how it makes sense that this guy is affiliated with Rebels.
I don't know, because he fights with all the rebels
Well,
against
but-
the Empire through the entire show, except for
Well, but
episode
who like
2.
are the Mandalorian and the Child and
That's
Cara
I guess,
Dune, are they
fundamentally-
rebels or are they just
Cara
like,
Dune would be, because she like actually
She
fought
used
for
to
the
be.
rebels in the war. Yeah.
but at the time of the Mandalorian, like there is no rebels. It's
Well, maybe
the
they're
new,
going to
the New
be
Republic.
the
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be in the mercenary rules then, where they just they just do whatever.
Yeah, that was a tidbit they mentioned that like didn't make a ton of sense to me. So
Yeah, we'll
I'm
see how
guessing
that ends up
it's-
looking.
Yeah, I'm guessing that, right? All those dudes would be rebels, and that's just because if they're going to be in Legion, they need core troopers to make an army in. So that's the closest thing to an ally.
I'm looking for the new improved E-Web from the Mandalorian. That'll be great for the Empire.
I had to
unfortunately,
laugh
I
during
think
that
that's the
scene.
same one.
Yeah.
I love me some E-Webs.
Maybe,
Bring them on in.
When
Did they
Gideon's, like,
say
talking that
Gideon's
thing up.
coming also in Dark Troopers? So maybe Moff Gideon will,
Yeah.
give buffs to the E-Web.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
He gets the
He'll give it-
monologue about it, and then it gets like a name token or something.
Takes up one round.
Yeah. He monologues about that thing for like a good 40 seconds.
Yeah.
That's
how you sell
and it was
toys.
way more potent than I've ever seen an E-Web be in this game.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these are all
Right.
the stormtroopers that survived, right? So they have to be good.
Or
Unless
they
Mando's
have to
shooting
be really, really like wusses because they ran away.
And I'll tell you though, I'm excited. I have kind of resigned myself that I love the original trilogy stuff. So everything Rebels and Empire I'm buying for sure. So all of this is exciting for me, and the Ewoks and Dark Troopers and all that. I mean, that's all very exciting for me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in addition to Mando Boba Fett, they also confirmed, without showing any models, so just we will release these units at some point. Mandalorian and the Child, so Din Djarin, IG-11, Dark Troopers, and Moff Gideon, all from the Mandalorian. And then separately, they also confirmed Ewoks to coincide with the anniversary of Return of the Jedi in 2023, and then Ahsoka. So
Presumably for the 501st Battle Force that they were
Yeah.
talking about. I would guess.
yeah, that would make sense.
And maybe they can make Anakin actually good with that.
Well, something I just thought about with Ahsoka is the 501st might have Mandalorian Resistance in it, because right in Clone Wars, when Ahsoka fights with them, right, that's along with the Mandos. So
Yeah.
That's
Could do a
Death
little-
Watch though.
Yeah, but Death Watch becomes Mandalorian Resistance. That's
Or
like Death Watch.
some of Death Watch does.
Well, that's
The
the Death Watch
Bo-Katan
that doesn't.
faction does. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying the ones that don't though are the Maul Super Commandos.
Yeah.
So all those ones at that point go on to become Mandalorian Resistance. So could be cool to have like Ahsoka and Mandos is what 501st will be or something like that.
It would also, I think, make sense from like a two birds, one stone perspective to like print like a Bo-Katan Mando pack that flexes like in the Mandalorian timeline and also in like the 501st timeline, right? I think
Well,
And also in the Rebels timeline. Because Bo-Katan fights.
yeah,
yeah.
and in Mandalorian. And wow, look at that.
And
how
in
old
Shadow
is
Collective.
Bo-Katan? Like, seriously. I mean, she looks pretty good in the Mandalorian for.
So I think I read somewhere she's like
Oh.
19 in that, and then in Mandalorian she's like 40 or something like that. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Starbucks still looking good.
Yeah.
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 I'm so excited for Ewoks.
Me too. Oh, dude.
Uh,
All day long. I don't even care.
it really depends on the rules.
Oh, clearly.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even care. I could care less what the rules could be. The worst rules of the entire game. I'll field an entire army of them just because.
You're not a little excited to flamethrower a band of Ewoks?
No, because I don't take flamethrowers.
I've been waiting for this since I started doing the podcast. Like, this is what I've wanted. I've demanded it. Like, I want that like two or three pip card that's like a trap for armor, right? That's like you play that card and it's the two logs coming down and smashing armor impact 4. It'll be great.
Those logs were a lot more than Impact 4. That was like Impact 12.
Yeah,
with
but they can't do that,
Pierce,
right?
Yeah. Impact 12, Pierce 12.
Could you just think about it? Just think about it. Ewoks on hand gliders. Oh my god, it'll be
Ewoks
so
with
good.
pointy sticks, just like
You could have like a chieftain who's got some
They're
weird magic powers. Oh my god, R2 and C3PO could be part of it. It'll be great. I'm so
Got a
excited.
range 1 attack that's just a white dice, throw a rock.
Yeah, exactly. Like ambush rules and stuff. You know?
Yeah. it'll be
Lock and
great.
load your Z6, boys.
Just give them
We've got some bears to mow.
Yeah,
down.
give them some of the same rules as like orcs and goblins from Fantasy Warhammer, where maybe sometimes they don't fight, they just fight each other, or they run like based on a die roll. Like I would love that. Just
feel like-
chaos. I'm all about chaos.
Courage 1/2. They panic at 1 suppression token.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those guys are pretty brave in that movie.
I think they're all just
They
gonna
were.
have incognito, right?
Yeah.
Or inconspicuous, or
Yeah.
whatever,
Low
like-
profile.
Yeah.
Low profile. That definitely makes sense. Or some kind of like Bane token rule where you,
You
can
know-
set, like Gene Stealer cults from 40k.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe the Mace Windu is nowhere on this list.
I mean, I'm sure it's not an exhaustive list, Mike.
Look, it sure seemed like a pretty exhaustive list as far as how much they
It is a
talked
lot.
about.
Yeah.
So
With the-
here's
Go ahead, Lucas.
my theory with this is a lot of the stuff they're throwing out there, like, you know, these names with nothing behind it, is all the AMG stuff. And so I think there's still some FFG things in the pipe we haven't seen. So that might mean we might be seeing, you know, Windu before any of this stuff. But that's all speculation. So he also might not be coming till, you know, 2025.
Don't get our hopes up.
Yeah.
Come on.
With Shadow Collective, I would love for them to do like a Han Solo re-release from like Solo, right? Because he worked with the Shadow Collective in that movie. And so like I would love to see some of the characters from that make it in. You could do a young Lando, you could do, you know, I mean, you could do Lobot, you could do a
Daenerys
lot of,
Targaryen and and Star Wars Legion.
Yeah.
you know, but you could, I mean, I always thought like Nest and all that, like there was a ton of really cool stuff in there that never made it. And I don't know.
It really opens up a lot of design space.
Yeah.
This whole concept of, I mean, people have been calling it scum because that's what it is in X-Wing, but that seems like a little shorthand.
Yep.
This is basically like everything that's not, you know, one of the primary factions.
Yep.
So, which is a lot of things. So yeah, I love it. Opens up a ton of design space. As long as it's balanced, I love it. That's the caveat to all of this.
Yep.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
just happy to
clearly.
hear. Oh, go ahead.
No, after you.
I was gonna say I'm just happy to hear that they have stuff in the pipes for 2023. So unlike some doomsayers were saying, it won't be a year of FFG stuff and they're dumping the game. They're planning on
Yep.
continuing it.
Well, I think that was clearly the whole purpose
Yeah.
of that whole
Yep.
thing, right? Was to give us the warm and fuzzies. And, I mean, it's a little bit of a sleight of hand trick. It's like, hey, here's all the things you love. We're talking about them, right? That means we're doing good. It's a little sleight of hand, but it's good. We needed it, right? We needed to know that they had some ideas. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'll feel better when they actually start delivering. As far as I'm concerned, like all of this stuff is super cool, super excited about it. But also Armada is dead, so
Well, but in that vein, I think, like, even though this is I'll be more excited when we get concrete releases. This is definitely a thing that I think needed to happen.
Yeah.
Just to kind of
yeah.
reassure people that like Legion is a focus.
Yep.
I mean, we've said on the show in the past, like a few weeks even, that like Legion is it's their biggest cash cow of the Star Wars games. Like, it's not going anywhere. The fact of future releases is a thing that was not in doubt, but it was nice for them to like openly say that, and not only say that, but give us at least the names of things that they're working on that are going to be like specifically AMG releases, and not just we're just getting what the leftovers from FFG and then releasing that kind of situation. So
is Legion bigger than X-Wing now?
No.
In terms of cash sales,
I don't think so. No. I think it's close, but because you gotta figure. Yeah,
I think it will be too.
It will be, but you gotta figure like X-Wing is sold at like Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Right. Like
And X-Wing's been
yeah.
around for a lot longer too.
Yeah.
So
there's a much lower barrier to entry for X-Wing
for
sure than Legion for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, clearly it's an extremely successful game, so and a growing one. So they'd be silly to just randomly like not make any more stuff for it.
I mean, besides GW War Games, I think Legion's the top dog now, from my understanding.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it wasn't. I mean, like, it's Star Wars. I mean, eventually they better eclipse Warhammer if they're doing successfully, like from I don't know.
I mean, Warhammer has a 30-year head start.
It totally does. I just like the Star Wars brand is pretty powerful.
It is. Yeah.
The Star Wars brand also has a 30-year head start.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. Yeah.
I also think like there's just, I remember when Games Workshop originally picked up the Lord of the Rings license, we went to see Lord of the Rings in theaters, and they were handing out GW brochures at the movie theaters when we went to see Lord of the Rings for the Lord of the Rings battle.
That is good marketing.
That is great marketing. And like and it was all in the same mall, right? So like the GW store in the mall clearly worked out like a deal or whatever.
Yeah.
But like that's like a thing you could very easily do with Star Wars, just like even on like the tail end of the credits or something, be like, hey, I don't know.
Well, they're gonna have to make a good movie first, and then we'll.
Oh, buddy, they've made a few good movies.
The original three.
Come on, Rogue One.
Oh yeah, that one was good.
Yeah, so
Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, both very good.
I will
give
give
you
those movies.
That
Rise of Skywalker was bad.
Yeah,
it was worse than bad, but yeah.
Anyway, before we get totally off the rails, why don't we hit there was one more important topic they discussed, and that was organized play.
Yep. So they made mention that specifically at Adepticon that they did say they were planning on doing a competitive and a narrative. However, that wasn't going to be Worlds because there was no plan for Worlds. And the first half of 2022, which is where Adepticon lies.
And just to be clear, their reasoning for that was the pandemic.
Yeah.
Which is pretty legit at the moment.
Yep. Right.
So-
And I mean, and specifically they called out because a lot of the world's invites are from around the world. And so that's a hard travel. Right.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. I don't have any problem with that. And they said that if for those of us who had our world invite, it would still be honored. So
I think they should burn them at this point.
I agree. I've been saying this for a while. It's a completely different game.
So do you make people earn new ones, or
Yeah.
do you just
Yep.
hold like a open, whoever
No.
wants to show up can come?
Maybe do a high command.
I think we just start with the new season. Whenever they're ready to start organized play, just start
over
at this
Yeah.
point. I just it's gonna have been like 3 years.
I mean, at a minimum, they need to be able to give people that have got into the game in the meantime, which is a lot of people, like a way to earn invites for whenever that event is.
Yeah, I mean, at a bare minimum.
Yeah.
I just it
I
kind of
can tell you my world's invite and the list I wanted on is worthless. And was
I played Vader Bosk, which I guess is gonna be really good.
I played I played middle management. I played a Veers Krennic list. So
I played
Yeah, it was
Palpatine.
Krennic Bosk.
yeah.
Mine had a plane ticket attached to it, so I'm sure that's not good anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I just I think it's a nice gesture.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, there's no reason to.
Yeah, I don't
So-
want to take that away from them. That's really nice of them to say, but I think logistically it just doesn't make any sense. But
Well, it's just half the people that have those invites don't even play the game anymore. I'm sure. I mean, not that the turnover's super high, but it's 3 years. People move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be nice to see them at least give new people a way to earn invites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
But-
make the party bigger. The
Yeah.
more the merrier.
Right. I mean, my big takeaway here is just that they're having one and that they're going to continue.
Yep.
At least
I don't know.
For
I
next
mean,
year.
we'll see. I sort of feel a little bit of every time they bring it up, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it." I understand that there's a pretty reasonable excuse not to, but they're still having events at Adepticon.
They are.
They're just
Yeah.
not going to have worlds, which feels to me like a contradiction.
Well, I think it's international travel, right?
Yeah.
We could all go there because we're here in the US, but potentially, I know some places in Europe still have restrictions on travel, and so it's you can't really call it worlds if only Americans can get there.
And I
Well-
would say too the numbers, right? So you can still have a competitive event at Adepticon for let's say 60 people, where Worlds was going to be 120 or 200 or whatever the number. It was going to be a crazy number, right? So
I mean, there's going to be thousands of people at Adepticon. And the other thing is that Worlds is going to be all Americans anyways, because those are the only people that could earn their invites. So
Mike,
I
there were invites in Europe.
okay,
Um,
maybe there were some.
It was
I just
it was just the first quote unquote competitive season
okay.
where there were basically no high command
FAQs.
invites at the time. High command.
Yeah. Is
outside
that what the
US.
deal is? All right.
Yeah.
It's so long ago I don't remember.
There-
But
yeah, no, there are plenty of Worlds invites internationally that currently exist. So
From the before times,
From the
way back
before
when.
I was going to say
Yeah.
something really, really bad, but this is how I got in trouble last time. So
all right.
keep it to
Let's move on
myself.
then.
I
Keep
thought
it
Mike was going to
myself.
say that Americans are better or something to
Oh.
that effect, but
No, that's definitely
You
not.
can't
that
say
is
that. That's
definitely-
not true.
no, that's definitely not true. So,
After that shellacking we took from the Germans.
oh my gosh.
Well, it would have helped if people played their
And the
games.
French.
I played my game.
I think I think that was one of the few.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out
Yeah.
there.
Anyway, German player is good.
Yeah.
Not a hot take. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Conditionally excited. This is kind of a nebulous promise, as you said, Mike, but
Yeah.
they seem at least
Uh,
committed to the idea of it. There's also no requirement that they hold it at Adepticon. I mean, the first and only Worlds we've had was not at Adepticon. So,
Yep. Yeah, it was just the FFG had set the expectation because Adepticon
Yeah.
is large enough that they couldn't hold the worlds they wanted to hold in their facilities, right? So, yeah.
Which is why we had an 8-person worlds instead of a 200-person worlds. But yeah, I mean, who knows? They could use Gen Con potentially. They could use some other convention. They could just have their own thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows? Anything could happen.
Yeah, it could not happen.